What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to Master Crafted. We are finally back after the holiday break. We're getting a little data. We're getting a little data thanks to Frankie for compiling it. We only had 3 GTs that were deemed worthy to be considered for this week's data, but we're starting to get some info. So we figured we'd go on and dive into it, and just give us a reason to show our ugly faces to your wonderful audience. Yeah. So thanks for hopping on this week. What are we looking at, Frankie, this week when it comes to the stats?
Thousand Suns at 90%. Nerf them now. It's just completely out of control. Won a GT with 2 total players. So, yeah, the numbers are still pretty low. I think the big things here are Space Marines with almost double anybody else. They also had a good weekend, winning a tournament. 2 players, and that's the biggest tournament of the weekend, and 2 players there both went 5-0 with Ultramarines. So sort of our predictions about that have been pretty spot on. I think they're a solid army in good hands. They're really good. The other interesting things here, lots of Chaos Knights players are out for a small weekend, which is kind of cool. And Blood Angels, another non-surprise here, also performing very well with their new detachment, which is really good. Most of the other numbers look about normal. A little over half the factions are under 50%, but again, the numbers are low, so I wouldn't read too much into that just yet. I expect next week we'll have a lot more higher numbers, but I think there are some interesting things here. I think Thousand Suns is obviously 90% is a bit inflated, but I think they're very good. They have lots of answers to lots of stuff. Interesting thing here is this is Rubrique and not Grand Coven, which is cool. I think Rubrique is awesome. Lots of Terminators and fun stuff like that. We'll talk about that later, right? Chaos Space Marines, that's where I like to see them, up high, because I have a hard time with them. So Trey he's always like, oh, we need buffs, after he's crushing everybody with them. So it's good to see him up and around the 60% mark. Yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think? What do you guys see here?
Yeah, overall, I think the things that we talked about in our breakdown of the meta actually kind of show kind of true here. Admech, Sisters, Blood Angels, very close to the top of the meta. Black Templars literally right in the middle. Astra Militarum, and by no means, even with their new Grizzled Company detachment, doesn't even have a tournament winning, or a tournament in winning position, right? Like, they didn't have any individuals that were at that point, which I think is showing that Grizzled Company does have some competition at the top of the meta. I mean, I am like, we have a online teams tournament coming up, and I'm playing Blood Angels for it, because that's how much faith I have in that detachment as a whole. I don't think it's going away anytime soon. It is so very lethal and so very fast. So overall, I'm looking forward to that, and no surprises at the top of the meta. In the bottom of the meta, my one surprise is, like, Dark Angels feels a little low. We talked about it in our meta breakdown. Like, they have a lot of tools for a lot of answers of what's going on in the meta right now. Deathwing Terminators, -1 damage built in. They are quite scary for 2 damage Ultramarines. They do not want to run into them, because there's a world where they don't even pick up a Terminator with Armor of Contempt, with -1 damage, with -1 to wound. Like, they might not even pick any up, which is just terrifying for a brick that you're spending like 200 plus points on. So yeah, I think overall it's good. I didn't play Deathwatch this weekend, so it makes sense that the Deathwatch win rate is so low. Our good buddies Tyler and Phil we haven't played any 40k recently with any Deathwatch, so they're down in the dumps, but that does not mean they are bad. Same with Eldari. They are not. Their win rate does not represent how good they are.
I like what you said about Dark Angels there. My teammate and multiple GT winner, Trey, really solid player. He has been getting some practice games in with Dark Angels, and he's just like gaga over how good it is and how good the Lion is in particular. And he's like, oh, this is such a different game playing this instead of my CSM. And he's not wrong, I don't think.
Yeah, it really is just like, what's up? I'm a problem. You have to deal with me on my terms. Wrath of the Rock is no joke, man. It can be a son of a gun for people to dig out. you know. And the other thing too I want to touch on, right? Like you're talking about Eldar shouldn't be down there. Tau's sitting down there. Tau is not doing bad at all. John just won a GT, you know, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, whenever it was.
Christmas weekend. Right
Yeah.
after Christmas, yeah.
Yeah, like I mean, again, like these stats aren't a ton to go off of. It's only one really, really, you know, large tournament and a couple smaller GTs as well. But you know, you know, you can still draw some conclusions, especially on any of these factions that we're seeing at least 10 players on, right?
Yeah.
Like we can maybe draw a little bit more, you know, solid conclusions based off of those. You know, it's shaping up similar to what we've seen. There are some discrepancies, but there's going to be that every week. But I feel like we did do pretty well with where we felt like most things were sitting.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it just shows the balance in the meta. Like, you know, our bottom feeders are still bottom feeders. Imperial Knights is still at the bottom. And unfortunately, like Knights in general are just going to struggle right now in the current meta. Their rules have been neutered sufficiently because of their time in the sun. After everyone got a little upset with like Chaos Knights and what they were doing, and Imperial Knights when they first came out, of like just how fast they were, and you could not hide from them, and they just had towering, so they just touched everything and shot the crap out of you, and it, you know, wasn't even a game. The meta as a whole is very strong right now, as in like very lethal, but it is very balanced in the sense that I still genuinely believe, and you know, in the comments, if you don't think it's the case, please let us know, because you know, I would love to hear it and discuss it with you. I don't think there's an army outside of 3 that stand a realistic chance to win a GT, and those 3 are probably Imperial Knights, Chaos Knights, and Imperial Agents. I think
Ooh, there was
all the
not
other.
a player this week.
What's that?
Not a single Imperial Agents player this
I
week.
noticed they were left off the list. Yeah, besides those like 3, all the others, every other army in the game has a realistic chance to win a GT. Is it going to be harder for some than others? Yes. We are in a very balanced state in the meta, except for one tiny little unit, which is Victrix Guard. They're a little oppressive right now.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll find out if there is an actual patch coming anytime soon for that. I know most of us would not be sad if they do get nerfed just a little bit. But who knows? They might be sticking around for another 2 months until GW releases the next data slate. Yeah, I think that's it. Any other observations? It was kind of a short week, so we can keep this section kind of short. Any last comments before we move on to our list review?
I do like seeing Blood Angels getting popular again, because that is a great matchup for my Emperor's Children. One of the matchups I love with my Emperor's Children is Blood Angels. So there's just nothing like watching an entire army bounce off of my Demon Princes, and that's exactly what Blood Angels do, which is pretty fun. So
Hell yeah. All righty. Well, we are going to go ahead and dive into our list for this week. We are talking about Ryan Cohen's Rubrique Thousand Suns list that he was able to win at the ProCon Golden Ticket GT. It is not for the actual golden ticket, I do believe, is the fun little joke here, that it did not come with a golden ticket, but it is a golden ticket event. Oddly enough, in that list, he does have a Demon Prince of Tzeentch, that is his warlord, and it does have the Arcane Thrall's Aura enhancement. It also has an Exalted Sorcerer on disc, a unit or 2 sorcerers in Terminator armor, one with Risen Rubrique, that will allow him to infiltrate with a squad, as well as a sorcerer with Terminator armor that has the Lord of Rubrique for that +1 to hit. He also then has 1 unit of 10 and 3 units of 5 Rubric Marines, as well as 1 unit of 10 and 2 units of 5 Scarab Occult Terminators, 1 unit of normal Zangors, a unit of 3 enlightened with bows, and then 2x2 on the Sekitar robots. Frankie, you're a resident Chaos player. What do you think about that list?
I think that the Terminators are awesome in this list. It's cool to see a lot of them. They're super deadly. I've played against it a bunch of times. They just really slap, and you don't get all of the cool buffs like you get with Grand Coven, but you still get all of your rituals and things, and the extra AP on them, and rerolling hits. They just hit super duper hard. They can be a real pain to remove because they have the think they're -1 to hit, right, with the Lord in there.
-1 to wound. Yeah.
Or -1 to wound, I'm sorry, yeah, with the Lord in there. Um, yeah, they're pretty awesome. They hit super hard, the missile racks and it's just, if you don't have the tools to deal with them, then you're in trouble, and they can deep strike in and put a hurting on something. And yeah, I like Rubric a lot, actually. I actually find it a little bit more interesting than Grand Coven. Being able to put devs on, things for one turn, you kind of build up for that go turn with Grand Coven and then just smoke everything on the board. I think there's a little more strategic play with Rubric A Phalanx, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Phil, any thoughts about this list?
Yeah, so the things that stand out to me is a 10 and 2 5s of the Terminators. So I think there's a really interesting matchup decision where you may infiltrate the 10 man of Scarab but call Terminators, and there's a world where you put it on a 5 man, and that's the only thing that you infiltrate. And it's nice that you have that kind of flexibility where you're not necessarily giving up a full 10 man of Scarab but call Terminators when you don't need to. And you can use it as a 5 man to go after objectives early, to be a dense objective scoring unit, or to flip an objective without necessarily giving up the 10 mana because you're trying to get after something a little bit more dense. It does remind me of the role that my Deathwatch Terminators often fill, where I'm pretty aggressive with them and I'm just putting them on objectives because I'm like, well, yeah, you're right. 2 up, 4 up doesn't protect you from everything. You will eventually fail them. But if I put them out there early, you have to put something significant to go into those Terminators to actually pull them off the objective. And that doesn't always work, right? Like sometimes I just scam people on 4 pinfalls and it feels awful, but it happens from time to time. So I do like the kind of matchup decision that you get with both of those things. Secretary robots with all the flamers, free Overwatch, they will infiltrate. This feels like it has more board control than traditional T-Suns lists.
Right.
With the 2 units of Secretary robots, with the unit of infiltrating Terminators, whether you do it with a 10 or a 5, like overall, this feels like it has more board presence on missions like Search and Destroy. Because overall, as double check, I'm not high here. There is not a Rhino for all of these Rubric Marines, so they are all on foot. That not necessarily isn't a bad thing, but it does reduce your mobility significantly. And the way that that Ryan has compensated for that is using those infiltrating Terminators and is using those robots to make sure that they have the board presence early, that they aren't punished for not taking the Rhinos, which in some matchups, in some lists, in some missions, you probably need.
This detachment also has, it's important to remember too, from a speed standpoint, this detachment has advance and shoot. It also has fallback, shoot, and charge, I believe.
I believe so.
Fallback,
Yeah.
Yep, fallback, shoot, and charge. So that mitigates some of that speed issue with not having the rhinos. So that the Marines can actually get up the board pretty quick if you're rolling advances on everything and can still shoot. So it's pretty cool.
Right. Yeah. I think some of the other, interesting things, there are 4 different rubric units in here, and at most 1 is being led at most.
Yeah.
Right. I assume, whether it's a 5 or a 10 man with the Exalted on disc giving the 18-inch lone op, right? Like that's kind of a nice, easy threat that you can kind of just like, that's definitely holding your natural potentially. You could put it with the fake caster bow goats just to kind of have that speed and mobility to make sure you're getting your casts off. I don't mind that as well. But this is just rubrics being rubrics. They're tougher in this detachment than in any other. They don't have leaders, but it doesn't matter. They still get their ability at base, reroll wounds against things on objectives, right? They're going to do their jobs extremely well. They're going to be hard to remove because of the detachment. And then also when you're in this detachment, right, even as soon as you lose a 5-man of rubrics, right, their sergeant is a caster. So you can use the fire on death strat. Whenever a psyker dies and another unit within 6 inches can fire back at whatever killed it, right? Like that out of Terminators with lethal hits, that's pretty great. Like I really, really like this list. As we were talking about with the double Sekitar robots and an infiltrating unit of Terminators, like this is just pressure. Like this, it does an insanely well job of just not only denying primary, it's going to brawl in the midboard extremely well. You're not paying the elite cost of having too many of the characters. You're just trading it for highly durable units, and I think that feels really, really good. And like I've been playing around and toying with T-Sun stuff for a while now and haven't really put it on the table. But like this play style, seeing like how effective it is, I'm definitely willing to try this out myself, because I do think that this plays more how I would like to play a Marine army that isn't, you know, hero hammer like Ultramarines play now. It is just stuff that's going to be hyper efficient on the board. And I really like that about this list.
So we talked about Blood Angels and how my Emperor's Children loves Blood Angels. You know what it hates is this.
This. Yeah.
This is impossible to deal with for Emperor's Children. This is an absolute nightmare. -1 to wound on basically everything. You know, my characters are damaged too, so the detachment rule doesn't come up, but almost everything else is damage 1. So -1 AP on my little swords going into, it's just an absolute nightmare for Emperor's Children.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing too is, like, we were talking about -1 wound. We haven't even talked about the Demon Prince. The walking Demon Prince does have the aura of -1 to hit and stuff. It's great.
The Thousand Suns Demon Princes are so good. Both kinds. The flying and the walking, they're both so good. And it just makes me sad to like compare them to Demon Princes from a lot of the other cults, or you can look at the CSM Demon Prince if you want. It's just not even, they're nowhere near as strong as these guys. They're really awesome.
Yeah, I do really like this. I think especially like if I were to take something like this to teams, I might try to push it for 25 Terminators, just 2 blocks to 10, and really try to, you know, find those matchups and stuff in exchange for maybe, you know, a couple rubric squads. But man, whew, spicy.
Very spicy.
Yeah, and for those that just in terms of tech, like things that you can do, don't forget that Sergeant, like as Lane said, that is the Psyker. But in terms of allocating wounds, you can allocate wounds to the Sergeant first.
Yeah.
So let's say hypothetically on the activation, they only have enough, they only kill 1 unit or 1 model, right? You pull the Sergeant, and even though, like, let's say there's nothing else within 6 inches, you can still spend the CP on the unit that they just shot into to activate and turn back and kill something. So, like, the fact that all of the sergeants are Psyker keywords, the fact that you can turn back around and kill things, you can do it with the Terminators, you can do it with the Rubric Marines, right? You're not killing characters. That's not what they are. They are the sergeant. You can allocate wounds to them first. So it's super important to make sure, especially if you're playing into that as well. Like, just be cognizant of the fact that if you don't wipe it, and you're expecting your little, like your trading asset that's on the objective expecting to live and flip the objective, no, it's probably not going to happen, because they're just going to turn around, shoot the unit, kill it, and even if it dies in return, it doesn't matter. You didn't flip the objective, which can be tough.
Yeah, and the thing I like about this too is, or about Thousand Suns in general, but especially this list, it's tough to kill. It's super deadly. I mean, this, if you're counting on your power armor or your 2-up saves to, you know, on your tanks to save you from this, they don't, and they won't. Like, this punches through everything. It's brutal.
Yeah, it's spicy. I do really like it. I think I have no arguments. I'm more invigorated to go maybe play T-Suns sooner than later now than I originally was thinking, because I like this playstyle a lot. I think it's good. All right, well, I think that'll be it for our Mind Over Meta this week. Thank you again, Frankie, as always, for putting together all that data for us and sharing your wisdom with the community. But yeah, thank you again, everybody, for following the channel, liking, subscribing. Please do so if you haven't already. Join the Discord and talk to us there about, you know, lists you're trying out and, you know, stuff like this we haven't seen before. It's great. It's awesome. It's winning. You know, don't be afraid to go be a pioneer out here in the meta. And last but not least, don't forget, victory isn't given, it's forged, and it's forged right here on Mastercrafted. We'll see y'all next time.
Have a good time, guys.